Hi, it's Tracy Stuckrath with Thrive Meetings and Events, and this is my first Instagram Live, so I'm excited, and I am just going forward and going forward and going to introduce, oops, wrong person, Kyle Dine. Okay, let's see. I'm clicking your name. How do I do this? Kyle Dine. All right, Kyle, I think you have to ask me to join. So we are going to have a conversation about food allergies and traveling and food allergies and in adults. Let's see, Kyle join. I'm waving at him. Okay, I waved at you. Now let's see, Kyle, we're doing this. How do I get you to join? There's another, okay, requests. Got it. Here we go. Let's see how this works. Your face should pop up. Waiting for Kyle Dine music. So I hope hey Brenda, how are you doing in Atlanta? Yay. Yay, I did it.
There I am. Hey Tracy, how are you?
I'm good, Kyle. How are you?
Hanging in there, doing pretty well, thanks. It's
Good.
great to be live on your Instagram feed.
Likewise, this is my first time doing this, so I am like excited. So
Mine too. So everyone beware out there. Two noobs on this.
Exactly. So I have been following you. Oh, of course the doorbell just rings. And the dog is now going to go berserk. No idea who it is. Okay. So I hope everybody can hear me. But I've known of you for a long time in the food allergy world, and you know, with playing your music and things like that. And we just literally connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to, you know, have chatted with you and met you so far. So tell me a little bit about what you've been doing in the food allergy world, and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Kyle Dine, and I have multiple food allergies myself. I'm allergic to peanut, tree nut, egg, fish, shellfish, and mustard. And I've had my allergies ever since I was a toddler. And I took a lot of risks with my food allergies as I was growing up. I wasn't the greatest model teenager for sure with taking care of myself, but I had a very severe reaction, anaphylactic reaction that really snapped me out of that and woke me up to taking better care of myself and allergies. So since then, I've been on a path of trying to raise awareness and education, and I've been doing it through multiple means. Through music, I've been doing school assemblies, educating kids about allergies across North America. I'm a consultant. I work with Food Allergy Canada, and I also have a business, Allergy Translation, soon to be Equal Eats, specializing in translation cards for people traveling around the world.
And that is so important, being able to translate your allergies while you travel. It's so hard to communicate with people when they speak another language from what you are. And for anybody who doesn't know, who's watching, so that was Kyle, and then I am Tracy with Thrive Meetings and Events. And like Kyle, I'm a consultant on food allergies. I got diagnosed when 2003, so I don't even want to figure out how old I was then. But and it changed the trajectory of my life. I was a meeting planner, and I couldn't eat at my own events. And so after 6 years of struggling with that, I decided I wanted to start Thrive to educate the world on how to accommodate dietary restrictions. And and that's what I've been doing. And I talked to meeting planners. As a meeting planner, I really communicated out to the meetings industry on how to do that, and front of the house and the back of the house. And I like, the other day when we connected, you were talking about how, I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of adults with food allergies, and the focus when I first started was really about kids. And I'm not discounting that kids, because you started out as, well, not started out as a kid, but you found out about your allergies.
Food allergy journey.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's 32 million, Dr. Gupta is like 32 million Americans with food allergies, and 27 million of them are adults.
Yeah.
And so what do you want, as now that you're an adult and you're doing this, what is your goal with Allergy Translation and Equal Eats.
Yeah, well, hey, I have to say, like, when I connected with you, it was because I'm a fanboy of like I really appreciate all that you do in the allergy community, but especially like, you know, what you do is so important for that adult group because, you know, there were, you know, I'm an 80s baby, so there was not a lot going on for me when I was a kid anyways, but now there's a lot of different resources and you know, policies, procedures in school settings and, you know, things that really can help kids stay safe. But, you know, as you get older and you get into the college, university setting, and then into the workplace, you start to really realize, you know, what the real life looks like with food allergy, and there's not always so many safeguards. And, you know, as an adult, for me, probably the times that I get frustrated the most with my food allergy are at conferences, are at events, any type of business corporate setting where, you know, food is not the main reason I'm there, but it's usually the main reason why I leave frustrated. You know, I get great networking, great opportunities, but at the end of the day, there's usually a meal that they, you know, maybe they noted my allergies on the registration and then there was no follow-up or follow-through on that. So for me, there's a lot of false hope when I go to events like that. And to know a company like yours is actually, you know, paving the way for safer events for attendees is just music to my ears, because there's not a lot of things that throw me off now with my food allergies, but events can really, really get under my skin.
Yeah, and I just posted, I think I posted it today, or it will be posted today, but who's responsible for managing food allergies? And I did it for a slide that presentation I'm going to do on Monday for IAC, is that it starts with the person who has a food allergy, but you know that you have to manage it. But then if you're that event planner, you know, you've got to start asking those questions and then communicating it to all of the other people involved. And when it gets put in front of you, you're the final decision maker, of course, on whether you think that is something that you can eat, or, you know, even asking questions. But I think I want to ask you this question, because a lot of meeting planners and hoteliers or food and beverage people are like, well, they don't tell me. They don't tell me that I have a food allergy, or that they have a food allergy, and they need me to do it until the very end when they're sitting down to eat, and they tell my server, who doesn't speak English or doesn't know anything about it. What suggestions do you have, you know, especially with your food allergy translation? I mean, managing it.
Yeah, and I'm part of the food allergy community, but I'm also one of the first people to throw us under the bus sometimes, because we can be our own worst enemies in communicating our restrictions. And, you know, for the people I'm coming around with and I'm hanging out with, they're the gold stars, people in the food allergy community. But, you know, I also have friends my age, allergic adults, that are not so, they're not the best advocates for themselves in communicating these things. But then when you look at it across other conditions, there's celiac disease, there's halal, there's kosher diets, religion-based, lactose intolerance, diabetic diets. There's so many different restrictions out there. And, you know, for the allergy community, there's a little bit more vigilance. But as you go down that line, you get a lot of these situations where people are just kind of getting their plate. And at that point, saying, oh, you know, this is a problem, when it has followed that procedure. So on that half, absolutely, you know, we have we have more to do on our side to do better at communicating. And then on the food service side, you know, they can only do so much with the information they have. So, you know, at times you can't really blame them if they don't have safe options, if you haven't given them the advance notice. So, you know, with where I'm trying to go with Equal Eats is trying to solve that two-sided equation here. And for years, I've created cards under the banner of allergy translation. And here's the old cards. And it was really to communicate food allergies in different languages. And moving forward under Equal Eats, which was supposed to launch last month, which horrible timing for a travel company to launch. So we're delaying it a bit. What I'm trying to do there is call a spade. You know, a card says food allergy on the top. If you have a food allergy, if it's an intolerance, if you have celiac disease, it really does call what it is and help put things in motion, whether through the card or through digitally going into their system. And then from the food service side, we're starting to really dive into research of how can we standardize that two-way process of getting people to disclose their food allergies, getting that information over, and then following the procedure that's already in place.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest struggles because, people with food allergies, myself included, is we don't necessarily communicate it because we don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
But we pay $500 to go to a conference or $1,500 to go to a conference, and food comes with that. And you don't have a way to communicate it, or if you did, there was no follow through on the back end. And so I agree. And I have looking at how to combine it as well. So hopefully you and I can work together to figure this whole chain. I call it the event food chain, and on how to communicate that, because I know when I go on to, what's that reservation system that you can book reservations? Oh my goodness. Book reservations at a restaurant. Oh yeah, Open Table. And you can put your allergies in there. And I love it when a hostess and or a waiter comes up to me and says, "Oh, Tracy, you put in your allergies." And that's so awesome to be able to communicate it that way. And it's communicated all the way down. And I think with events, it's much harder, 100%. Because you might have 500 people or 17,000 people. And how do you find Kyle in this slew of people? Or how does Kyle know how to get his food, right? Did you communicate something to them and on how to get it? And I know there's one event I worked and we were serving 7,000 people. Wow. And we had 683 people with dietary requests.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And we're walking into a humongous convention center ballroom, and there's one like 3-foot by 4-foot sign that says, "Pick up your special plate here." But when you're walking in with 7,000 people and the banquet staff is guiding you over this way, you don't see that sign. And you probably have 5 zillion emails going around that you didn't see the follow-up email. So figuring out those ways to connect everybody. So.
Yeah, and there's no black and white answer of that best practice, especially on an event of that magnitude. But it's design thinking, that whole process of what are the touch points, and just people can become aware of it and get that meal to them, the plated meal or a separate section, whatever that solution is. Right.
And I actually, my friend Shauna sent me pictures a couple of years ago from an event that she attended, and they put all of the allergy people at one table, and they designed a menu that was free of everybody at that table's allergies. So she said, it was kind of weird, everybody being segregated, like that peanut table in the
really for adults
area. But she said it also was a way to connect with people, saying, "Oh, well, you don't eat that? Why don't you eat that?" And, or not why, but, communicating, talking about their allergens, because I think we all like to talk about our food that we can and can't eat with other people who get it. But
oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So, figuring that out, or, and I think the hardest part too is receptions.
Yes.
And buffets. Also,
the tray comes around and you're just, they put it, "Would you like something?" And I don't think I've ever accepted anything in my life off a tray at a reception, because there's never a tent card. There's never an ingredient list. There's at least the ones that I've been to. And those are tough situations as allergic adults, when you mix the social element where people are cheersing and, taking the shrimp popper, whatever it is. And, why aren't you the one participating in this social moment? So those are tough situations to deal with, but I definitely pass.
Yeah. You said earlier too, that, you leave frustrated. I mean, do you wait until the very end, until you're hungry, or the end of the event, or do you leave mid-event?
Well, the latest example I had was a 4-day event, and it was a massive national competition that I was at, and I couldn't eat anything. And there was a very well-known fast food chain, McDonald's, that was not too far. And for me, I've got go-tos there. I ate every single meal for 4 days at a McDonald's.
Wow.
And that, to me, got very frustrating that here I am as one of, it was a top representative at this, and I couldn't even eat. So it says a lot to me about organizations when they don't take that extra step, no matter where you are. And, if you're the keynote speaker to just an attendee, you got to take care of your guests. And so, yeah, the moments like that, I usually have backup plan. I have granola bars,
right,
in my briefcase or wherever. So I always have something to snack on. But at the end of the day, you need a substantial meal, and that's pretty frustrating when your stomach is growling during a business affair.
Yeah, and it's very hard to feel included and feel part of that organization or that event because your mind is elsewhere. Your mind is on your belly, and or your mind is wreaking havoc of, okay, do I eat that? Well, the waitress doesn't know what I'm going to eat, or the server doesn't know. And how do you do that? So because I know you're in Slovenia, is that right?
Yeah, Slovenia right now.
So, and your cards, do you have them translated to, what is the language there?
Slovenian, yeah.
Okay. I don't think I could say that. Sloveniak. Okay. Do you have your cards translated into that language?
I do. Yep.
And how were people, you're not eating out at restaurants right now, but before the shutdown, how did those go over?
Well, and it's a shame right now. I miss dining out as I imagine a lot of people do. But, from the very start of this redesign of the cards, from allergy translation to Equal Eats, just talking to food service, staff, chefs, waiters, waitresses, management was just a really huge part of that process, just to make sure that we could really nail it. And it was really interesting, the feedback throughout that process. And like I have here just different iterations of cards, like through this whole year-long process, which takes me back of, I remember showing a chef a card, a prototype, and just getting it shut down. That's wrong. That's not clear enough. We need this black and white. So there's, when I see these cards, I could, there's very specific reason why every single element is on them. So when I have used them, I've had very positive response. It doesn't beat around the bush. It doesn't give more messaging than what's really essential. Because I know, when you make your own, you want to kind of personalize it, tell a little bit of the allergy story, but this gets to what they really need to know in black and white and red. So it's been positive. I've, knock on wood, had no bad experiences, no reactions or anything. And, this isn't the be all and end all. You still need to carry your epinephrine. You still need to use your gut and not just completely wholeheartedly trust. You still need to do your diligence as much as possible.
That reminds me of, and you're from Toronto, right? Originally.
Yes, Kingston, Ontario.
Yep. So there's a friend of mine, a meeting planner that lives up there, and a story that she told me probably 5 years ago is that a guy walked in to an event that reception or something that she was planning, and he's like, I smell pineapple. And she's like, well, yeah, it's a Hawaiian themed party. What do you have pineapple at Hawaiian themed party? He's like, well, I'm allergic to pineapple. She's like, did you tell me that you were allergic to pineapple? Well, no, I didn't. And she's like, okay, so where's your EpiPen? He goes, it's in my car. And she's like, okay, so for me to potentially save you if you had an allergic reaction is that I'd have to find the keys to your room. And she's like, where are your car keys? Well, in my room. Keys to my room. Well, figure out what room you're in, and then go to your room and get your keys, and then go to the parking lot and go click, 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 click to try to find your car. And then by the time I get back, you're probably, not with us anymore. And so I think that's one thing adults, and you hear stories and everybody communicates, carry your EpiPen. And we don't do it a lot. And, or whatever brands you're using, right? Avacue or the generics, but it can't be in the car.
No, and what amazes me are the lengths that people will go to, especially adults with food allergies, the lengths they'll go to not get embarrassed because of their food allergy. And whether it's hot, not carrying their epinephrine, not having it with them, not disclosing, not wearing the medical alert bracelet, not making it part of their identity. Like, you can't pretend it's not real. It is real. And what I always think of, if you flip it over on the other side, where if you're embarrassed of it, think of how embarrassed you'll be if you did have a reaction, like in that situation.
Yeah.
Where you go to a Hawaiian party and you didn't tell them about your pineapple allergy. How silly do you all of a sudden look now?
Right.
You could have got ahead of that. You could have just communicated that. Oh, you're having a Hawaiian party? I've got a pineapple allergy. Can you do a couple safety things here and, put something in place? Because, if you have a reaction and you don't tell anybody during your reaction, people will get mad at you.
Yeah.
People care. People care for you. Your friends, the people around you, your coworkers. And it really is not a good look on you, the fact that you hid something that should really just be a part of you. So
yeah,
that's my personal viewpoint on it.
Yeah. Well, and it's basically, you need to own it. You need to own the fact that you have a food allergy and be okay with it, or you have celiac disease, because and my friend is on here, and Michigan gluten-free gal, woohoo, is on here, and it's Celiac Disease Awareness Month as well. And I think it's just the same issue. I'm like, you can't be embarrassed by it, because the people, for the most part, the people who are making you food and or ordering you food, and I'm going to say there's some exceptions to that, want to create you a meal that you can eat. And they don't want you to go hungry. And the last thing, because if you walk away from, Casa Tracy mad, are you going to be mad at Tracy the event planner, or are you going to be mad at Casa Tracy Hotel, right? And it's going to be a combination of both.
It's called the hospitality sector for a reason.
Right.
They are supposed to be hospitable to you.
Yes.
But you do have to meet them halfway. You do have to disclose, and then that sets off that process.
Yep. Okay, so and know your EpiPen should never be in the car for overheating or freezing. That's just a bad thing. And what allergy asked, do you guys wear medical bracelets? And Kyle, you showed yours. I do not have one myself, but I like that idea. So
yeah, I've got a leather one.
Nice.
It's roots. I used to wear dog tags. I've kind of gone through the gamut of trying to get the coolest ones possible. But I've got this leather one now, which is great. It gets a little hot in the summertime. I might actually get one of these. They have some really neat silicone ones now.
Okay.
That are great for a hot day if you're doing athletics. So there's a lot of options.
So like
out
the
there.
Apple Watch, is this?
Yeah,
this is
really similar
okay.
to that.
Yeah. That would be cool. Yeah, because I chose this band for my watch because I use it for exercise, and the other ones get dirty so fast. So yeah, and you said something a minute ago, but the hospitality industry, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to be hospitable. And if there's any meeting planners on this group, I mean, I know we're adding a ton of new things to your plate when you're doing this, but it is something that's imperative to do. And one of the things, so you're in Europe now, and I'm in the States, and the States have the Americans with Disabilities Act, which added eating as a major life activity back in 2008, and which means individuals with celiac disease and food allergies now have civil rights protections under the ADA. And then where you are, if nobody's aware of this, in 2014, Hathaway just said, I'm going to interrupt it. You can get a medical alert ID that slides on your watch band. Hathaway, send me that link, please. That would be so cool. Put it in there. Where can we find that?
I check that out too.
Yeah. But so in Slovenia, and I'd love to know how they're doing it, but I know the European Union made it a regulation that anybody that serves food and beverage, whether it's the Quick Trip gas station or it's a hotel, you have to label for the top 14 allergens that the EU regulates. So when I've been over in Europe the last couple of years, every country does it differently, which is the hard part in traveling in Europe. So what do you see over there?
And that's the European Union for you. Like, there's usually standards, and then you kind of have different interpretations country by country of what works for them. What's interesting about that law is that it's either they have to label it or they can give you that information orally. So if you're at a restaurant, they can verbally tell you what allergens are in it, or they'll use some type of allergen matrix, or they might have number guide, or they'll have little icons. You never know what you're going to get. So as you said, it can be all over the place. You just have to be aware.
Right.
And the other thing I would say with that is it's a great first step. It gives you an idea of what might be suitable for you. This does not give information about, staff training, about cross-contamination contact. How aware are they really?
Right.
So you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt and still do your diligence.
Yeah, and I was talking to a lawyer in Italy a couple of years ago, and I was like, well, and they had just come up, and this was 2018, and they had just finalized their standards in Italy, and 4 years later, and what they were how they were going to reprimand people if they didn't do it right. And I said, well, how does a small restaurant or store know what to do? She's like, well, they have to call a lawyer to find it out. I mean, their regulations are not printed anywhere. And I'm like,
wow,
why? You have to contact a lawyer. So I'm like, oh my God. All right. So Christy, Seattle, Christy, hi, sweetie. How are you? I haven't seen you in forever. She's my former neighbor. So Hathaway just wrote, Road ID offers a variety of products for identification and includes medical alerts. All right. Awesome. Thanks, Hathaway. She's a big runner. So I know she has that for herself. So I appreciate that. But it's kind of frustrating and actually there was a law that was introduced in a township in New Jersey last year, and it was all about labeling for the top 8 allergens, and they were going to be the most comprehensive allergy law in the country. Top 8 plus MSG and a couple of other things. It was a bunch of hoopla on it before it was passed, or before it went into law, and then they passed it, and then there was one article on it. And then I called the health department, I called the guy who introduced the bill, nothing done about it. And I'm like, and they said 450 people that provide food and beverage in that township, and then anybody bringing food into that township also had to follow that law. But they didn't create it. They just made it a law and then just didn't give any kind of regulations or guidelines behind it.
No teeth behind it.
Yeah. So nobody's going to do anything. Yeah. And then nobody knows about it because they didn't tell anybody. So I'm like, what's the point in doing it? So.
Well, part of the frustrating part for me, and on my own rant about dining out with food allergy, is that there's a lot of standardization on the areas that could make you sick. Salmonella, food safety, of these type of controls. But when it comes to the things that could actually kill you in terms of food allergy, there's very little. And standardization is just simply not there. And some states have laws, some townships might have policies, but there's no system-wide way to actually enforce these things on, like a health and safety department. Right. It's not going under those type of wings. So we have a long way to go in terms of food allergy, dietary restrictions, and the food service industry. And I applaud you for all of your work that you do in the meeting space and for conferences. But, on that bigger sphere, I think we're just scratching the surface. Yeah. And that's just kind of one of the areas that I'm really trying to dive further into to help with the standardization, because I think there's just a long way to go there. We need to start speaking that language.
Yeah, there is. And I tell people that I have a job until the day I die, which, hopefully it's not tomorrow. But so, there's a lot of work to be done. And my friend Emily Brown in Kansas City Food Equality Initiative is doing it as it relates to getting food in food banks and things like that, right? And we need that right now, especially because of COVID-19, with all these people, because food allergy food costs a lot more when you're buying it from the grocery store and things like that. But she's been really, instrumental in getting the food code and the farm bill to put information in there about it. And I need to learn from her on who do I need to talk to and how do I get that done, because changing the food code. And the other bad thing about our food code, which is kind of like 1169, is the US puts out the food code and then they let every state decide how they're going to implement that food code. So even though there is a US food code, they can take bits and pieces of it and do what they want.
Gotcha.
So it's similar to the other, which is frustrating. But I know it is late your time, right?
Oh yeah, it just hit 10 o'clock here. So. But this is fun. We should. I could do this every Thursday with you.
I know, we should totally do it. What do you, for people who have food allergies, and with your traveling and going to events, can you give three little tips on how to make or how to advocate for yourself?
Yeah, 3 tips. I would say, obviously, like, carry your epinephrine. Like, this is just number one, especially if you're, however old you are, you need to have your medicine with you, whether it's EpiPen, whether it's AuviQ, or whatever else you carry. That is number one. I think we mentioned a lot already, not being ashamed of it, just being open about it is the second most important thing, that you are not just, okay, I've got my medicine, I'm in my own little bubble, I hopefully will be okay, but you need to actually communicate that. And then the third thing I would say that relates to that is, we talked about it as well, owning it. And I actually did a webinar yesterday with Food Allergy Canada on the topic, the great title, Rock Your Food Allergy. and literally, like, it was just 30 minutes of motivational allergy talk about how you can, like, ultimately become your own authority. And I think that's a mindset where if you think about someone who is an authority in some type of position outside of allergy, why are they there? It's usually because of their experience, their knowledge, their expertise on something. And if you relate that back to your own food allergy, that you can become your own authority in it, you stand your ground with it, people all of a sudden don't really ask you such silly questions, and they don't second guess you about it when you just have that confidence showing from you. Yeah. And if they do judge you or do whatever that makes you uncomfortable, you can stand your ground a lot easier. So it's a bit of a mindset shift, but I think at the end of the day, as long as you are taking your precautions, you're speaking up, and you're being confident, you're in a good spot.
I love that. And those are all super important. And it just popped into my head. One more thing is that another Canadian from Toronto, meeting planner, one of the things that she does, actually, she self-diagnosed with celiac and convinced them to finally do the test, and she got diagnosed. And then she had 5 hospital visits in a year because she found out she was also allergic to tree nuts.
Oh, jeez.
Gluten-free food is mostly made with tree nut flour, for those who don't know. But she always makes sure at every event she has a buddy, somebody that knows that can actually take care of her in case of an emergency. And she always makes sure, find somebody, even if you're going by yourself, make a friend, talk to a stranger, and just say, hey, can we eat together for the next 4 days, right? Because I need somebody to be aware that if something happens, this is what I need done for me. And whether that's the meeting planner or somebody, that you just randomly meet at the convention.
I love that, and that's part of the standard travel advice is, tell your travel partner about your allergies, where you keep your epinephrine, but, in meetings and different events, absolutely. Great idea.
Okay, cool. All right. So tell everybody, because it's 10 o'clock your time, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. My phone number. No, I'm joking. If you want to get a hold of me, Kyle Dine, KYLEDINE.com. If you're interested in the music, if you're interested in the allergy cards, equaleats.com, which will be fully operational next month in June, as it's just no big rush to get cards out there right now.
Right.
So those would be the best ways. And then on social media, feel free to connect with me on Instagram or other, and happy to answer any more questions about food allergy. Okay, great. And then you can find me at thrivemeetings.com, Thrive Meetings events on Facebook, and here, or Stuckrath. And so I have one funny thing to know. Your last name is Dine. Did you purposely change your last name to Dine so you could do this work? Is it a stage name? Yes. Is it a stage name? I get asked that all the time, and it's so funny because I was, I guess, just born to be in this field. My real last name is Dine. So that's it.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm so glad to finally connect with you now for the second time in a week. And I
Yep,
look forward to working with you on
absolutely.
standardizing all of this stuff so we can all be safe.
Let's do it. All
All
right.
right.
Thanks so much,
Thanks, Scott.
Tracy. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.